Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 11. Um, we are into the middle of Access. So we do have Access file. So go ahead and download your instructions. And then we do have a resource file that we'll be using to get started. So let's go ahead and download that. You may recall from last week's video that I strongly advise that you do not download all files at one time for Access. It tends not to work very well and you may miss something. So again, adhere to those rules if you can. I'm not saying that it won't happen, but it might. It did to me. It kind of messed me up last time I was trying to do chapter 1. So after you've downloaded your files, go ahead and let's click our enable content, and then we are going to whoops, sorry about that. Then we are going to do a save as. And you know that I've created a BUSA 120 file, you know the drill. I've already done this once, so I'm just going to put this right where I can see it this time around. Let me make this a little bit larger. Some of you may get the enable editing again. If that's the case, just go ahead and click your enable editing. Let me bring over the instructions. So we are now done with step 1. In this homework, if you will, in this assignment, we actually have 11 steps. Believe it or not, this one is a little bit easier than last week's, and I think it's only because you were just getting started learning a little bit about Access. But I'm going to go slow because when we get down past the relational database information, we've got some new steps that we're going to be doing, and so I'm going to go a little bit slower than I normally do. Be careful when you are in Access. It's a little unforgiving when you make mistakes. Using your back arrow doesn't necessarily work in Access, so you may find that you might have to start over, which is okay. It's just more practice. So let's take a look at step 2. We are going to be using organization ID as the common field. We're going to create a one-to-many relationship between the organizations table and the grants awarded table. After that, then we're going to enforce referential integrity and enable both cascade options. So what does that mean? By the way, I totally forgot to say this at the beginning. I don't think that I would do this assignment even just by watching me complete this. You really need to do your reading and then your simulation, then go into doing these projects. There's a rigor to them. Access is a little bit different than the others. The cool thing is that, you know, our ribbon looks about the same, and there's a lot of the same things that happen in Word and Excel that you're familiar with. But this is a database, and so it is a little bit different. So going back to step 2, we are going to create a one-way relationship. To do that, we need to go to the database tools, and we're going to click on relationships. And this brings up our tables, which you see here. And so the instruction says to create a relationship between organizations and grants award. You will recall that in the simulation, we were instructed to first go ahead and make these windows a little bit larger so that we can see the information in them. Once you do that, you are then going to pick up organizational ID and then go ahead and put that in. And once we've got that, let me just go back just for a second here, because it says using organizational ID. That's why I picked up organizational ID and then drug it over to grants award. Now we are going to create the one-way relationship. So let me go ahead and do this. We are going to enforce. We have the relationship type. We'd want to have both cascade options enabled. Then you're going to create. Now we've got the relationship going. So you see this, and that's the infinity sign. For those that aren't familiar with that, that's the infinity sign. So these two tables now have a relationship. And this is called a one-to-many relationship. Next, we are going to create a relationship with normal margins, saving it with the default name, and then we're going to close all objects. So to do that, you're going to click on Create a Relationship Report, and then we're going to give it normal margins, nice and easy, and then we are going to save it with the default name. So you can go ahead and click your Save As button, and it says to save it with the default name. That just means whatever pops up here is nice and we like it, and we're just going to say OK. So now you've got your report and your navigation pane here. Next, it says to close all open objects. So we're going to click and then click again. Now let's move over the instructions. We are now in number 4. In the last record of the organization's table, so we're going to bring up this table. We're going to change the data in the organization ID field from the 1527 to the 1001, and then we're going to close the table. So this is not rocket science. You are just going to open this table and you're going to go down to org-1527 and you are going to put in your 001. And after you do that, then you are going to go ahead and I just hit my tab to kind of accept it. Go ahead and then just close the table. So when we changed this, interesting enough, our grants, you remember, is now related. There's a relationship between those two. And then we ran the report. Well, guess what? Whatever we change in organizations is now going to change in the grants awarded table. That's the cool thing about building those relationships. Okay, so now let's take a look at 5. We're in the sorted grants table, which will be here. We are going to sort the records first in descending order by the award amount field, then in ascending order by the department field. So let's just go ahead and go to the sorted grants table and sort the records first in descending order by the award amount field. So award amount, and we want to sort in descending order. So sort largest to smallest. Then we're going to sort the department field in ascending order. So the department field, ascending order. And then you're going to close the table and you're going to save the changes to the table. So don't forget to save your changes. Step 6. Let me scroll down. Create a query in the query design view based on the grants awarded table. And then we're going to be adding fields to the design grid in the order given. I actually like doing this kind of stuff. This is kind of fun. So we are going to create a query based on grants awarded. So we're creating something, and it's a design query. And so we are going to base it on grants awarded. So let's go ahead and close that. And again, don't forget to stretch this out to make it big. Now, what are we going to be dragging down to our fields area? What are we basing our query on? Well, it says in the grid, in this order, we want grant ID. So if you've done your reading, you might remember we have to click on these, left click, hold it down, and then move it right in there. So we've got grant ID, grant name, and now we need award amount. And then we need type, and then award date. Nice and simple. Nice and easy. Okay, then it says to run the query, so run. And that's basically it. We do need to save our query to all grants and then query. So make sure that you don't have any typos in there, and then just go ahead and close that. Item 7 says to copy the all grants query to create a new query with the name grant types query. So we are going to copy all grants, and to do that, click on it, copy, and then come down somewhere in here and then right click and then paste. So we have this paste as box. So we are going to name it, and I usually actually don't like typing everything, so I use my shortcut keys a lot. So query name is grant, don't forget to take out the S, and then types, and then query. So make sure everything is typed correctly, and then just say OK. Now we're going to redesign. Let me bring over the instructions so I can give you a visual. 1 second here. So we are in number 7. So now you're going to redesign the grant query so that the following fields display in the order given. So it's just kind of the same thing that we did in the design view before. And then we're going to be sorting these records. So this step right here will be a little bit different. So let's try this. So we are going to be in grants type, but we want to be in design view. And so you may remember from having the doing the simulation what we did in the simulation. So here what we're going to be doing is we want to make sure that grant ID is first, then department. So I don't see a department down here, so we're going to click on department, drag him down, and we'll place it right in the middle of those two. So now we've got department. Then we want type. So we're going to pick up type and then move him over. Then the grant name, and then the awarded amount. We do not want awarded date, so you're going to hover right over and until your cursor changes like that, and then you're going to right click after you've got that, and you can just say cut. Not a big deal. So again, grant ID, department, type, grant name, and awarded amount. Now you're going to sort the records in ascending order by the type field. So we're going to say sort. So you just kind of follow that line over, and we want ascending order for the type, and then we want ascending order for the grant name. Then we're going to run the query, and then we're going to close the query. And do we want to save the changes? And yes, we want to save the changes. Number 8, copy all of the grants query to create a new query with the name grants sort query. So we are going to copy all the grants. So right click, copy, and then we are going to paste that and name this new one grants, and there's an S on that one this time, so it's plural, not singular, then sort, and then query. Now we are going to redesign this grants sort query. So go ahead and double click. We're going to go to design view. And this time we're going to put our fields in this order. Grant name. So pick him up, and we're going to move him first. So grant name, and then department. So we'll need department, award amount, and award date. And you can take both grant ID and type and hold those down, left click, and go all the way over, and then just cut. So let me go back. Let's take a look again. Grant name, And then looks like our department needs to come over. So grant name, then department. Whoops. So just pick them up. There we go. Grant name, department, award amount, and then award date. Then we're going to sort the records in ascending order by the department field. So we're in sort, and we want to sort in ascending order by department field, and in the descending order by the award amount. Descending order, award amount. Then we're going to run the query, and then we're going to close the query, and then you are going to save your changes. Step 9 says now copy the grant sort query. So grant sorts query, and we're going to copy, and then we're going to go ahead and paste that and name this one all private grants, plural, and then get rid of sort, and then we've got query. So all private grants query, and we're going to redesign this query. All private grants query, we're going to redesign him. So design view, and we are going to do the following fields in this order: grant name, department, award amount, award date, and then we want type. Now we're going to sort these records in ascending order only by the grant name. I say only because, well, it's in the instructions. Let me bring this back over. But that was kind of hard, right? Getting through all of these. But it does say only. And the reason why it says only, because that's the only one we're going to do here. Now we're going to be setting our criteria. This gets a little interesting and can be a little hairy. Again, I go back to hopefully you have read and then completed your simulation. So now we're going to set our criteria. So here's our criteria. And we are going to set the criteria to run so that when you run the query, only the records displayed that are private as the type. So here's our type, and criteria is here. So you're going to go over to type, click in here. This is not case sensitive. You may remember from your reading, doesn't matter, but you do have to click enter for it to accept it. And you'll notice that it does put parentheses around it automatically so that you don't have to do that. So once that's done, we do not want to display the type field in the query results. Well, show has a checkbox. Just deselect the check mark here. Once that's done, we're going to run the query, and you should have 11 records. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Let's go ahead and close this query, and please save the changes. And now we're on step 10. We are going to create, oh, sorry about this. Let me move this over so you can get a visual. Now we're going to create a query and query design based on the organization's table. And then we're going to be adding these fields. So let me move this over, and we are going again to create a query in query design based on organizational's table. So we're going to create a query from design. We're going to say add. Let's go ahead and just close this. Don't forget to make it big. And we're going to add the following fields in this order. So we need organization name, contact name, and then phone. Contact phone actually is what it says. So organization name, contact name, and phone. You're going to sort the records in ascending order by organizational field, then set the criteria so that when you run the query, only those records display that are missing the contact phone number. So here's our criteria. So to do that, and there are two, how do we do that? Well, in the reading and in the simulation, there's a little four-letter word, and no, it's not a cuss word, it's the word null. And we are going to type is null. And actually, I was playing around with this last night. If you just type null and then do tab or enter, it actually puts is null in there. So if you just remember null, nothing, null is nothing, then you'll get it right. All right, I think that's it. So we are going to actually save this as missing phone query, and then we're going to close it. Let's go ahead and run it first. There's our two contacts that don't have any telephone numbers. Now let's go ahead and save our query as missing phone and then query. Don't forget to say OK, and let's close the query. And just like that, we are done. So make sure that all of the objects are everything's closed. I'm going to go ahead and just say close, and we're going to close this out, and that's fine. Let's go ahead and get this uploaded. And upload, and then we're going to submit for grading. And if you have any questions, you know where to find me in Ask the Instructor, a question tab in Blackboard. And let's close this. And so got 100%. Again, if you get stuck, you guys know what to do. All righty. Good luck, everyone.